Hello, my name's Sarah Robinson and I'm the Director of Conservation for the Scottish Wildlife Trust. For the past 2 years, I've been chairing the Scheme Delivery Committee for the Living Landscape Partnership for the Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape. Through this role and working with the CallP scheme team, I've been working on behalf of the Trust and the partnership to support the delivery of the scheme outputs and outcomes. As we look to the next steps for the living landscape, it's helpful to reflect on how the partnership and the current funded phase of activity was realised. The Trust launched a long-term vision for nature conservation in Scotland entitled Natural Connections in 2006. Underpinned by the concept of the ecosystem approach, the vision was about scaling up Scotland's nature conservation efforts from species and sites-focused activity to an ecosystem and landscape scale. It was also about taking nature conservation itself out of its silo and making it a much stronger element of socio-economic considerations and decision-making. A crucial element of this approach involves making the links between a healthy environment, a healthy economy, people's well-being, and ultimately the prosperity of Scotland. People, environment, and economy are also referred to as the three pillars of sustainability. The term living landscape is used across the Wildlife Trust's movement and is broadly promoted as a call to restore the UK's battered ecosystems for wildlife and people. Building on its efforts to champion the need to integrate economic, social and environmental sustainability through taking an ecosystem or landscape scale approach, the Scottish Wildlife Trust sought to realise this through coming together as a partnership to create a living landscape. The Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape, often referred to as CALL, was conceived in 2009 by the Scottish Wildlife Trust. The majority of partners listed on this slide were involved in 2011 when the Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape was launched, setting out a vision for 2050 that embraced the ecosystem approach. In 2012, the Little Assynt Tree Nursery was established, the Coigach Community Woodland Trust making available an area of land on which to site the nursery at Little Assynt Field, 5 miles east of Lochimber. The same year, volunteer-led organisations based in the CALL area joined forces with the CALL partners, bringing together a total of 14 organisations to develop an application to the National Lottery Heritage Fund Landscape Partnership Scheme. The application and proposed projects were developed through discussion and consultation with all the scheme partners, local groups and individuals within and across the wider community. This led to a Stage 2 application, which resulted in the National Lottery Heritage Fund awarding funding to support the delivery of a landscape partnership scheme in the Coigach and Assynt living landscape. As you've seen and heard today, the scheme has achieved a fantastic amount, delivering activities and projects across the 4 areas of land and conservation management, people, training and wildlife, paths and access, and built and cultural heritage. As valuable as the projects delivered is the partnership that's come together. The relationships and shared experience that the Landscape Partnership Scheme have helped develop will ensure the work continues. The CallP scheme partners have committed to maintaining the legacy of the Landscape Partnership Scheme, and many of the physical changes to the landscape and built heritage that have been realised through the support of the scheme have committed to management and maintenance plans for 10 years following the scheme. The Landscape Partnership Scheme is not the end of the living landscape. The original CALL partners have had an initial meeting and are still supporting of the original vision, only seeking to refresh it in light of the climate and biodiversity crisis being globally, nationally and locally recognised. The core vision currently states, it's 2050. The communities of Coigach and Assynt are working together to achieve a truly living landscape through improved understanding of their environment and the impacts of climate change. Shared active management providing a diverse range of connected and resilient habitats, creation of local employment and training opportunities, and building on the community's strong cultural heritage linked to the land. The partners are keen to build on this and continue to work towards the vision and a truly living landscape that's thriving and resilient. Over the coming weeks, we'll be looking at the outcomes of the Landscape Partnership Scheme and how we can build on these over the next 5 to 10 years. We're at the start of the United Nations Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, a very relevant initiative under which the next phase of the living landscape will be delivered. Opportunity maps for various habitats were created when the National Lottery Heritage Fund Landscape Partnership Scheme application was being developed, and projects that are part of the Core P scheme have begun the process of learning more about the state of these habitats, and in the case of woodland, they've gone some way to expanding the woodland cover. In the immediate future, the Scottish Wildlife Trust will continue to bring together the Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape partners and have taken on the responsibility of ensuring the monitoring and maintenance plans are realised through the delivery partner of each project. The woodland expansion work will continue through the work of the Woodland Trust, Little Assynt Tree Nursery, and initiatives such as the Alliance for Scotland's Rainforests and Riverwoods. The Scottish Wildlife Trust is currently seeking to appoint a call project officer to continue the crofting project and will be working with the call partners to develop the next phase of activity. More support to realise the ambitions of the living landscape will materialise as we see necessary changes to agri-environment schemes and mechanisms to reach the net zero targets develop in the coming months. Several prominent reports and workshops in the past 18 months have further highlighted to political leaders the need to act now to ensure the natural environment is not further degraded, and efforts to reverse negative trends and restore our ecosystems are accelerated. This cannot be done at a site scale. We need to tackle this at a landscape scale and work to increase ecosystem function and resilience. The living landscape, place-based approach to realising the necessary ecological ambitions brings together communities of space who relate to the project on geographical level, and communities of practice who relate to the project through shared interests, practices, and knowledge. The Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape now find itself part of a larger place-based initiative that has developed over the previous 9 months. The Northwest 2045 project started in autumn 2020 when an informal partnership of community groups, local development trusts, statutory bodies, and community, private, and environmental NGO landowners came together to consider how to create a vision and voice for remote rural communities in the Northwest Highlands. Defined as the area from Coigach in Wester Ross, north to Durness, and east to Betty Hill, the date 2045 was selected for the vision to reflect the Scottish Government target of reaching net zero emissions by 2045. Climate change and adaptation is a major driver of change that will affect the future of the rural economy in Scotland and be acutely felt in the Northwest. This driver sits alongside post-Brexit changes to financial mechanisms, changing societal attitudes, and the rise in visitor numbers. The Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape is a significant geographic area within the Northwest 2045 and has brought together a diverse mix of partners delivering a wide variety of projects. The participative approach taken by the partnership has fostered collaboration and supported the delivery of the Landscape Partnership Scheme. This established partnership has supported the development of the Northwest 2045 vision and collectively agreed to financially contribute to the development phase of the project. As we explore the next steps for the Northwest 2045, the Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape Partnership and area are well placed to respond to these political, cultural and economic opportunities and challenges thanks to their experience of working at multiple scales within a landscape and making the links between a healthy environment, healthy economy, and people's well-being. The Council successfully applied to the Scottish Government to host one of the 5 pilot regional land use partnerships. The regional land use partnerships aims to create a dialogue between communities and landowners on how changing land use can help support net zero and increase biodiversity through initiatives such as woodland and peatland restoration, and support communities' social and economic objectives and aspirations. The Northwest 2045 project partnership was identified as an ideal candidate to trial this in Highland because it's an existing partnership of landowners, communities, local authority and agencies with objectives relating to how land use can deliver environmental, social and economic benefits. Global and national policy and targets, in addition to the opportunities through bigger initiatives such as the Northwest 2045 Regional Land Use Partnership, all align with the ecosystem approach that underpins the living landscape. The Coigach and Assynt living landscape is in a strong position to realise activities as a partnership of stakeholders with a shared vision and a track record of working together. Much has been achieved thanks to the commitment of time, energy, and willingness to collaborate and support each other. An excellent foundation on which to work towards fully realising the vision of the Coigach and Assynt living landscape. We look forward to planning the next phase of activity.